I'm ready.
You ready to light the beam? You ready to light the beam? Shemezi Mets, who gonna light that beam?
I've been pondering an important question as we finish up a little more than a month in the NBA season. Are the Sacramento Kings the best team in California? Now, before you get all worked up, is this recency bias? Yes. Does this deeply pain me to say as a Warriors fan? Completely and utterly yes. That aside, I think it's time that we have a serious dialogue on the Kings' playoff hopes. Will the 16-year playoff drought, which marks the longest active playoff drought across all professional sports leagues, finally reach its end? Well, if that beam lighting up the Sacramento sky on a more and more regular basis continues to do so, I think so. Let me tell you why. Oftentimes, the Sactown Kings and their fanbase are ridiculed onto no end because of their helplessness as a franchise. Years of perplexing draft selections, bad coaching hires, flawed culture, and more have culminated into the longest playoff drought across all NBA franchises, 16 years. You'll hear me say that a lot this video, because that type of weight can hold down a franchise for far longer than 16 years. There's numerous examples of this across all professional sports leagues. The Detroit Lions, for example, seem to be faced with climbing a hole 10 times as deep as other franchises who enter a rebuild. Say a team like the Celtics or Mavericks. They have the luxury of spending far less time on a rebuild than a perpetually losing franchise. Sure, maybe that's part in due to selecting franchise-altering players like Jason Tatum or Luka Doncic, but what it actually comes down to is a competent ran franchise putting themselves in position to succeed with favorable draft selections, which is very much a part of completing a rebuild, something the Kings have failed to do for the past 16 years, just about. Now, does that mean every decision made by the Kings has been awful? Absolutely not. I'll be getting into what moves I actually think helped them reach their current point later, but for now on, just understand that this isn't a hate piece on the last regime. That being said, I will be highlighting why I believe the Kings franchise was stagnant for so long, and also why I believe they can become a playoff staple for years to come. After repeated shortcomings by the Kings in the playoffs, most notably their defeat at the hands of Shaq and Kobe's Lakers, which, to be fair, has been like 99% proven to be a fixed game, at least when it came to the late game calls, Sacramento's front office decided to move on from their cornerstone piece in Chris Webber during the 2006 season in favor of Kenny Thomas, Brian Skinner, and Corliss Williamson. Admittedly, Kings faithful were perplexed by this move and were confused why the Kings would move off of a fan favorite all-star type of player to get middling role players in return. You can't really blame them either, as this poor trade decision onset the ensuing 16 years of playoff depravity. Now, don't get me wrong, the Kings still had some hoopers for years to come. Players like Sharif Abdul-Rahim, Mike Bibby, Kevin Martin, just to name a few. They ensured Kings fans that they wouldn't be good enough to make the playoffs, but also not bad enough to raise their odds of a top 3 draft selection. It actually wouldn't be until 2009 that Sactown would have a pick within the top 5, after their abysmal 2008 season wherein they finished with a 17-65 record. That pick being their selection of Tyreke Evans with the number 4 selection overall. And Evans came with a spectacular rookie season. I think I'll remember that half-court game winner forever. But if you didn't know, be it violating NBA policies or motivation woes, Evans just didn't pan out past his rookie showing. The following year, the Kings had their best draft selection since likely their 1970 selection of tiny Nate Archibald, with the selection of DeMarcus Cousins at number 5 overall. Even with 2 studs in Evans and Cousins, the Kings remained perpetual losers, finishing with sub-30 wins up until the 2015-16 season, where they finished 33-49. The front office, largely helmed by Vlade Divac and coaching from Mike Malone and George Karl, just did not have what it takes to put it together for Sactown. Real troubling decisions was made by the front office during this time, between 12 coaching changes made during their playoff drought, and draft selections like Bismack Biyombo, selected 7th overall in the 2011 draft, Thomas Robinson, who I've never heard before, selected 5th overall in the 2012 draft. Ben McLemore, selected 7th overall in the 2013 draft. Nick Stauskas, selected 6th overall in the 2014 draft. And Willie Cauley-Stein, picked 6th overall in the 2015 draft. Oof, if you weren't tracking, that's 5 draft busts in a row. It's no wonder why Sacramento couldn't get over the hump. Now, not all busts are created equally, and some of these guys were real quality NBA players. But in reality, I don't think any of these picks panned out exactly how the Kings envisioned prior to their respective draft selections. And because so, the Kings shifted their front office a good bit and got rid of Geoff. I don't want to murder this last name, so I'm just not going to say it. Actually, I'll try. It's like Pateri. Yeah, I know I butchered that, but they moved off Geoff as GM in favor of a short stint from Pete D'Alessandro. I think I got that one. And then finally, Kings legend Vlade Divac. So the new GM, Vlade, really shook up the Kings roster during the 2016 season too, when they traded all-star big man DeMarcus Cousins and Omri Caspi for, funnily enough, Buddy Hield, Tyreek Evans, and Langston Galloway, with 2017's first and second round picks. This would culminate in the franchise's best season since the Weber trade, with the 2018-19 Kings roster coached by former Memphis Grizzlies coach Dave Yoger. This was much in part due to the pickup of De'Aaron Fox with the selection at number 5 overall in the 2017 NBA draft, but for the most part, the De'Aaron draft marked the end of poor draft picks placed by the Kings organization. Even so, the squad just missed the playoffs with the 9th seed. Hey, if only the play-in tournament came a few years earlier, right? Notable selections after the fact came in the form of Marvin Bagley and Gary Trent in 2018, Tyrese Halliburton in 2020, Davion Mitchell in 2021. We'll talk about Keegan Murray too, but a little later. The Kings' woes didn't disappear overnight though. The front office was still being run by Divac, and the new pickup of Warriors assistant Luke Walton spelled disaster for the Kings' near future at the time. The next 3 years came with records of 31-41, 31-41 again, and then 30-52. Yeah, the Kings still remained perpetually average. Not bad enough to get a generational player in the draft, but not good enough to reach the playoffs, and they were continuing to trend downwards. Bringing in Monte McNair to replace Divac allowed the new regime to start laying the groundwork for future success, even if it wasn't as evident as when the change took effect in 2020. First major decision on the job, trading future star Tyrese Halliburton, sharpshooter Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson to the Pacers for Domantas Sabonis, Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and a 2023 second round pick. Which brings us to the next section. The Kings may have gone 5-10 in games Sabonis started to finish out the season, but rest assured that a revolution of sorts was lurking around the corner. Many hated the Halliburton trade when it happened, although one thing was for sure. McNair decided that the guard room was just too full with his selection of Davion Mitchell and Fox's established status as the leader of the team. And in fact, the Kings did need solid big man play, and while Sabonis isn't the most elite big man of all time, he definitely was a step up from what they had previously. Additionally, in a huge and convoluted trade, the Kings sent Marvin Bagley to Detroit and got back Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Jackson, and Trey Lyles in return. One thing was certain, a sneaky great offseason was on the horizon for the Kings, consisting of acquiring Keegan Murray with the 4th overall pick in the draft. Not only that, but a major steal of a trade coming in form of sending out Maurice Harkless, Justin Holiday, and draft compensation for Kevin Huerter. You may know him as Red Velvet though. Add in returning pieces of Fox, Sabonis, Mitchell, Harrison Barnes, Richaun Holmes, and others, you got a playoff caliber team if led by the right coach. Oh right, the coach! The Kings moved off of former Warriors assistant Luke Walton for former Warriors assistant Mike Brown. And no kidding, so far it has worked. Brown has really got the young guys motivated and playing together, something Walton was unable to do. Now before I get too far into the current Kings season, let's go ahead and transition into our next section. Is it coaching, De'Aaron and Monk rekindling some of that Kentucky magic, or the beam? No matter what it is, don't look now, but the Kings sit firmly at the 5th seed in the West a month and a half into the season. Let's get into the key changes from past Kings teams to this one, and how that can result in the end of the longest active playoff drought in all of professional sports. To me, the biggest step up from this year's Kings team from years past is their production from the quote-unquote other guys. The nucleus of the team, that being guys like Fox, Barnes, Sabonis, and Mitchell, have all returned and contributed along their normal levels, of course getting better as they continue to gel from the previous season's trade. What's taken this team to that next level is the production from Herter, Monk, and Murray. Red Velvet has been unthinkably great this season. He's the epitome of a fantastic role player, efficient, doesn't play beyond his means, and plays smart defense. Monk, of course, thrives when alongside Fox, and it's insane how the Lakers let him get away in the first place. And Keegan Murray might have looked like an iffy pick at the time, but there's a reason he was touted as the most league-ready prospect in the draft. After the top 2 3-point shooters were shipped out last year with Hield and Halliburton, the new trio has almost single-handedly brought their deep shooting averages back to fruition with 3.7 threes per game from Herter on an incomprehensible 50% clip. Murray's got 2.2 threes on 36%, and Monk's got 1.9 threes on 37%, and they make up the top 3 3-point shooters on the team. Since the squad's first win on October 29th, they've won 9 of their last 11 games and achieved their first 6-game, well now 7-game win streak since January 2005. While Coach Brown was able to bring some of that flashy, fast-paced offense from the Warriors, the defense remains fickle with a ranking of 27th. But we'll kind of push that aside for the time being. With the departure of Halliburton, Fox really came into his own and improved upon his shot selection, decision making, and leadership, a great sign from a young player that was on the verge of plateauing. Sabonis has found his role more and more as he gets experience with the team, which is something like a Nikola Jokic light, with averages of 18, 11, and 6. This year, the Kings are 1st in points per game, 4th in fast break points, 3rd in assisted turnover ratio, 4th in assists per game, 1st in effective field goal percentage, 1st on 2-point field goal percentage, 4th in field goals made per game, 2nd in defensive rebound percentage. This offense is absolutely absurd. Their defense may be atrocious, but that can be improved over time, which can't be said so easily for the offensive side of the ball. And of course, we saved the best for last. Something so revolutionary and flat out cool that it deserves its own section or even a video. The beam! This beam has not only given the Kings fanbase that so desperately needed creativity and fun ideas to dampen the panic surrounding the playoff drought, now the Kings have their own moniker with hashtag the beam team and limitless meme potential that can get NBA Twitter in a frenzy after any Kings win, which has been quite plentiful this season. Also, there's just nothing cooler than pressing a purple button after a win and seeing 1,000 watts of purple light soar through the sky. And that is how you completely rebrand a team's culture and play in 1 year. As we wrap up, I just want all of us to collectively hope the Kings season doesn't dwindle like in years past as they narrowly miss the playoffs yet again. In a season where so many favorites have been underperforming, whether it be in individual player team success, seeing the Kings' risky decisions pay off has been really endearing. As you may know, we love a good underdog story on this channel, and if the Warriors end up not being able to right the ship, I'll be rooting for the Beam team. What do you guys think of the new look Kings? Will the 16-year drought extend to 17? Or is this the year the Kings finally overcome their playoff demons? No matter what you think, let me know down below. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed. It helps me reach more people and grow and all that fun stuff. If you're new, subscribe and see our video later this week on Zach Wilson not being him. That's it for me today though, guys. This video has been made by Underdog. Peace.